Hey guys, today we're going to review adding and subtracting fractions. First, we're just going to do adding fractions. We're going to review what we know about adding fractions. I know that I can add two fractions if their denominators are the same. So I can add 1/4 and 3/4 because they're both fourths, and that becomes 4/4 or 1 whole. Now, the problem occurs when I have different denominators. So let's say I want to add 3/4 and 4/5. Okay, I cannot add these because their denominators are the same. I can't add fourths and fifths. So what I have to do is I have to change my denominators so that they're the same. So I know that I can make fourths and fifths both into 20ths. And in order to make that happen, I have to multiply 4 times 5. And so if I'm going to multiply 4 times 5, I have to multiply 3 times 5 because it would be like multiplying by 1 whole. So that gives me 15 20ths. And then I want to make these into 20ths, and I multiply by 4 again. It's like I'm multiplying by 1 whole. So that's 16 20ths, and I get 31 20ths. I don't want to leave it as an improper fraction, so I'm going to simplify that. That becomes 1 whole and 11 20ths. Subtracting is exactly the same. I have to have like denominators in order to subtract. So if I'm going to subtract, let's say I have 7/8 and I want to take away 1/3. Okay, I have to figure out, well, what denominator can those have in common? And I know that they can both become 24ths. So how do I make 8ths into 24ths? I multiply by 3, so I have to do the same thing to my numerator because that would be like multiplying times 1, 3/3. So that becomes 21 24ths minus, and then I have to multiply this times 8 on the numerator and the denominator, and that becomes 8. So 21 minus 8 is 13 24ths. That is already in simplest form. It cannot be simplified at all. Now, what if I have a whole number like 2, and I want to take away 1 and 3/5? Okay, well, I have to think to myself, 2 wholes is like 1 and 5/5. Now I can take away 1 and 3/5. So I subtract my whole numbers, that leaves me nothing, and 5 minus 3/5 gives me 2/5. If I have a whole number like, or a mixed number like 2 and 3/4 minus 7/8, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the denominators the same. So this becomes 2 and 6/8. Because I multiplied that times 2, that times 2. And I can leave the 7/8 alone. But as you can see, I can't take 6/8 minus 7/8. So I have to add. So I'm going to do some regrouping. So this is going to become 1 whole. If I make that 1 whole, I have to add 8/8 to the 6/8 that are already there. So I have 1 whole and 14/8 minus 7/8. So 1 and 14/8 minus 7/8 is 1 and 7/8. And that's my final answer. Just remember, when adding and subtracting fractions, you have to make the denominators the same. You cannot add or subtract unlike denominators.